Greg, you got a moment?
I do, yeah. Please, come on in.
Go ahead. How you doing today?
Doing well, thanks. How are you?
Good.
So what's the latest update on the prepaid expense issue?
So, as you are aware, our substantive testing identified a error as it relates to prepaid amortization expense not being recorded. We've sent you over the documentation for your review. The audit team looked at whether or not this required a restatement for historical financial statements and determined it did not reach to that level. However, management is concerned because the misstatement or the error this year would be material for the current period and thus wants to go back and restate the financial statements.
Okay, great. And you spoke with the controller?
I did speak with the controller. She believes it's human error. There should have been an immediate red flag, which was the balance never changed period over period. They recorded the asset properly, but never recorded the amortization expense. But she firmly believes that it was just simply missed.
But if it's a red flag, how could the accountant miss it? How could he know that the amortization wasn't properly accounted for? We need to understand more about what's going on here.
Fair point, Greg. I think part of the issue is we didn't find any other errors in any of the other accounts. So it leads everyone to believe immediately that it's simply a one-off item and a human error.
Okay. Did the controller have anything else to say about this?
In fairness, Greg, just to give you a little bit of the other challenges that we're dealing with is she was a little edgy on this whole conversation. The staff accountant, Paul, had just returned from vacation, and she was pretty disappointed because it did not appear that his focus was on the account at hand and was more thinking about fun in the sun, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, let's try to work together on this root cause error, and then you can go back to the controller if we need more information.
Sounds good. So maybe we'll start at thinking about the error itself.
Okay. Well, first let's ask, we have a prepaid insurance arrangement and the amortization wasn't recorded. Why not?
You know, the thing that jumps to my mind immediately is that someone forgot to enter an amortization date within the system.
But don't they have the controls in place to review the prepaid expense?
Yeah, they do. They have a control over the account reconciliation and the account analysis for prepaid expenses and other assets.
Well, let's peel the onion back a little bit on that. How does the control work? Shouldn't it have detected the fact that the amortization wasn't being recorded? And what's the level of precision of that control operation?
Well, the control includes a reconciliation of individual prepaid amounts back to the trial balance at the beginning and end of the period. For activity during the period, all changes over 100K have to be supported and investigated.
100K. How's the control designed to catch those situations where there should have been a change in the prepaid account balance, but there wasn't one?
To be fair, we asked about that during our walkthrough, and I have it in my notes. Let me just look back. The controller said the accountant is responsible for reviewing the account analysis and supporting evidence for each prepaid item, and then 2, recalculating the amortization based on the terms of the agreement. That review is actually for everything on the reconciliation, not just for changes above 100K.
Okay. So based on that understanding, why didn't the control catch the error?
Well, Paul, the person who's actually responsible for the account, just assumed responsibility for performing the control this quarter. When he described the control to me, he only focused on the review of the reconciliation. It sounds like he didn't realize that he was supposed to review the account analysis, which would include recalculating the amortization recorded during the period. However, that step was consistently performed by his predecessor, and those steps are included in the control description.
Okay. Well, that certainly suggests a control deficiency to me.
You're right. It seems like the reconciliation and the account analysis that Paul should have been doing failed.
Okay. Well, given the root cause of the error, do we think the deficiency relates to the design or to the operating effectiveness of the control?
You know, at first blush, it appears to me, if we think through the design of it, as Brittany has laid out, it's 100K. That's a precise enough threshold. And the analysis that should have been done would have detected an error or that amortization wasn't being recognized. So it appears to me that I would not say this is design deficiency. I would believe it should be the control was just not operating the way it should have been performed.
It seems that way. Well, Britt, why don't you go back and talk to Paul, get his take on what his process is before we go back and talk to the controller.
Okay, sounds good. We can get back to you by end of day today.
Right? Perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you.